Welcome to my kitchen. And why are we in my kitchen? Because today I want to share my recipe with you for French bread pizza. And that's why I have my hair in a ponytail so it doesn't fall in the food as I'm making it. So this recipe for a French bread pizza, very simple, very easy to prepare, and pretty quick. And minimal list of ingredients. I like to do recipes with very few ingredients with them because I don't have a fully stocked kitchen. As you can see, that's the extent of my spice rack. So I like to, well, cut corners in certain ways. And so again, ingredients, baguette, sauce, grated cheese, and then possibly whatever toppings you want. So let's start with the baguette, which, as you might recognize this, it's a French style bread, which is notable because of how thin and long it is. And that's why I prefer to make my French bread pizzas with a baguette because I find it makes very good sized slices and it's easy to make the slices. So how do you cut up the baguette before turning that into the crust for your pizza? Simply put, you cut it in half twice. The first time, smack down the middle. So dissect it like that. And of course, I'm just using a regular bread knife, serrated bread knife to cut the bread with. And this is the same knife I'm going to use to cut the slices into smaller slices once the pizza is baked, once it's done. So again, first we cut the baguette in half this way, and then for each side, you're going to want to cut it down the middle and all the way, so make it two halves that way. I'll show you. Be careful not to cut yourself. And while you're doing it, try to be careful to keep both sides thick enough to be a decent pizza crust. You don't want either side to be way too thin because it will just be crispy, almost nothing to the crust. And so there we go. Now I turn the one half of a baguette into two little uh, slices so I can start putting the pizza together. And I'll repeat the process for the other side. So again, split it in half this way. So then you can prepare the rest of the pizza right here on the cutting board right next to each other. And so once you have your ingredients together, so the baguette cut up into 4 pieces, just like I just did, and pasta sauce, I buy, a jar or can of whatever pasta sauce I'm feeling like, whatever my tastes are for. This one here is an herb and garlic seasoned sauce. So that way I don't have to use my own seasonings to do the sauce. And so on top of the sauce, we have grated cheese. So your 3 necessary ingredients: baguette, pasta sauce, grated cheese. And you could use whatever pasta sauce you like. Sometimes I use a vodka sauce to do it, or sometimes I mix 3/4 Alfredo to 1/4 marinara. That makes a nice, pretty pink sauce. Anyway, whatever sauce your taste desires. And so I've got right here, it's 1/2 pound of fairly finely shredded mozzarella cheese, but sometimes I make it with a mix of mozzarella and cheddar or mozzarella and Parmesan, depending on what sauce I'm using and what toppings and what I feel like. And so once you have your sauce, your grated cheese, and your baguette already, I also pre-sliced this pizza I want to do with pepperoni and mushrooms. So I already sliced up the pepperoni ahead of time to apply right to the pizza. And I already sliced up all the mushrooms. And so what do you do once you have all your ingredients together and cut up, ready to prepare? I suggest then is when you preheat the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's part of how this recipe is quick and easy, because you can actually put the pizza together, put the ingredients together to make the pizza while the oven is preheating. So let's start that now. Again, 375 degrees Fahrenheit. So now the oven is preheating. So once you have the oven preheating, the first thing is you take your baguettes and you add the sauce. And so I like to use a decent sized spoon to do the sauce. And so you just sort of use the spoon to spoon the sauce onto the top of each slice. And then you can use, if you want, the bottom of the spoon to spread it around a little better if you want to get it spread, because I don't like to leave too many open spots around the edges that have no sauce or cheese or anything. So I go ahead and spread it like that. So I won't make you watch the other the other 3. So they're magically gonna be done in just a second. And so now that I have all of the pieces nicely sauced up, now it's time to simply sprinkle the cheese onto them one at a time. And that's one thing too, if you want different slices with different kind of cheese, you can do it this way, because the pizza is cooking in 4 separate pieces. So toppings or cheeses or sauces on one piece is not going to at all affect the flavor of the others, which is one thing I like about the French bread pizza, because when you make a traditional pizza, it's all one round piece, and even if you don't put a topping on both halves, sometimes the taste bleeds through into it. So I like this because, well, I'm just using the same cheese and sauce on all the slices, but I can switch up the toppings a little. So I'm just gonna sprinkle generous amount of cheese on each of these pieces. And I try not to overdo it with the cheese on the first time, because I like to also be able to add a little cheese on top of the toppings. If I'm adding toppings, I would like to throw a little cheese onto that as well. And so I will do the other 2 without making you watch. And so now that I've finished putting all the sauce and cheese on, I have used, for the record, about 5 ounces of sauce, 4 to 5 ounces of sauce, and same amount, 4 to 5 ounces of shredded cheese. And so then when you have the sauce and the cheese on, then either, if you don't want any toppings, I would recommend adding a little extra cheese, or you can sprinkle your toppings on. And so, like I said, you don't have to make each quarter of the pizza in the same exact toppings or flavorings. But so what I want to do here is do 2 of these quarters as with both pepperoni and mushroom. 1 of the quarters with only pepperoni, but plenty of it, and the other quarter with just mushrooms. And then they're all gonna get a little extra cheese at the end. And so for the ones that I'm using pepperoni and mushrooms, I'm leaving good amount of spacing between the pepperonis so that the mushrooms will not have to all be exactly right on top of them. And of course, the one that I'm gonna make pepperoni alone is gonna have a lot more pepperoni on it. And now we have, again, 2 pepperoni and mushrooms, the ones over here, and then one just a lot of pepperoni, and the other one, a lot of mushrooms. And again, I'm gonna throw a little more cheese over the top. But by the way, while I had it paused, the oven just got to preheated. So very good timing. The oven will probably be pretty well preheated just before you're ready to put the stuff in. So it's always good to have it preheated all the way. And so some people, so again, we preheated the oven to 375 degrees. And when I put the pizza in, I'm gonna bake it for 15 minutes. So 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes, and it should be nice and done. Some people prefer putting the pizza directly on the oven rack in order to get the crispiest crust possible. But myself, I prefer to use a baking sheet for the convenience of being able to get things in and out of the oven without hurting myself, and also so as not to make my oven too messy. So I'm just going to transfer the pizza that I prepared on the cutting board right to a little baking sheet. And there you go. It's ready to go in the oven. Some people might prepare the pizzas ahead of time on the baking sheet already, but I like to do it on the cutting board so that extra cheese and toppings and stuff don't spill on the baking sheet and dirty it up. So here we go. I'm gonna put the pizza in the oven. So again, it is on a baking sheet for the convenience of keeping the oven clean and me not injuring myself. And so I'm gonna set the kitchen timer right now for 15 minutes. And so I would suggest not to rush checking on the pizza because, you know, every time you open the oven door to look in, all of a sudden you're going to need to cook it a lot longer because the oven gets colder. And so if you are too curious, I suggest if you have an oven light function, that's how I would do it. I would just turn on the oven light and look in the little door and see that it's not overdone. And so, yeah, so that's it. It's very simple, easy preparation, pretty quick. In the time I was putting the pizza together from the ingredients, I was also preheating the oven. And so you're talking, you know, minimal amount of work. And um, yeah, and that's it. So other than that, again, use the oven rack directly if you want an extra crispy crust, or use a baking sheet if you want to, well, keep your oven cleaner and risk be less at risk of injury to yourself. And so in order for this video not to take forever, I'm going to pause the recording until timer goes off and we will see the results. So of course you might have noticed how I did not use any olive oil, you know, any oils or grease or butters, anything really fatty like that. Uh, that's because I like to make it makes a very light pizza, very light, and it's also a way for me to rationalize not feeling guilty about wanting to eat more pieces of pizza than I probably should. Um, and yeah, and that also keeps the list of ingredients super simple. Again, baguette cut into 4 slices the way I showed earlier, grated cheese, which I always have at least half a pound of grated cheese ready in case I want to go overboard with it. And today, first I put on 4 or 5 ounces of cheese before the toppings went down, and then I threw down another 2 ounces on top of the toppings. So I used about 6 or 7 ounces of cheese, but I always make sure to have at least half a pound of grated already so I don't run out while I'm making the recipe. And yeah, so it's that simple. Baguette, your favorite pasta sauce, grated cheese of your own choosing, and then whatever toppings you like. There's no other ingredients necessary to remember or to buy or to have stocked in your kitchen. That's why I like this French bread pizza recipe because it's kind of foolproof. It's pretty easy to remember that every pizza needs a crust and sauce and cheese, and that toppings are an option. And so it's that simple. So again, we preheated the oven to 375 Fahrenheit before putting the ingredients together. And right about when the oven was preheated, right after it was preheated, like a minute or two after, I got the pizzas in there. And I've been being patient, not opening the door, just checking through the oven light. And they're already starting to look pretty good. And the oven timer has just 45 seconds left on it now because I paused during some of it. So this recipe might take a little longer to make because of the cooking time is 15 minutes. Whereas in this video, I paused the recording for several of those minutes. And so as soon as I hear the kitchen timer go off, I will be ready to pull it out of the oven and check it out. Now, again, we cooked it at 375 and I used a baking sheet for convenience factors. If you do it that way and you find out that, there we go, it's ready to come out, and you find out that the crust isn't crispy as you would like it, if you would like it crispier, you have an option of raising the heat from 375 after the 15 minutes. If it's not crispy enough, raise it from where it is at 375 up to 400 or even 425, and put the pizza back in for a couple minutes. Whereas to me, yeah, that is feeling plenty crispy enough already. So again, 15 minutes at 375 and we're all done. And so don't these look delicious? I got the 2 pepperoni and mushroom all the way on this side, and then mushroom only right here, and pepperoni right in the tallest piece in the middle of it. And I'm looking very much forward to tasting these. So once you do pull it out of the oven, you're going to want to let it cool for about at least 2 minutes or so, cool for a couple minutes before you can start slicing the bread again, slicing the pizza. And so what I'll show you these again so you can see we have 4 pretty long slices. Trying not to tip this over and drop them, of course. So what I will do is I will actually turn them into 8 slices, each half the size, by cutting each of these 4 in half, dissecting it. So this baguette, which was a little on the small side, but not tiny, ended up making an 8-slice pizza out of it. And so while the pizza is cooling down, I'm gonna, I guess, decide which of the ones I want to eat. Do I want pepperoni and mushroom, or just pepperoni, or just mushroom? Like I said, that's a good feature of this recipe. You can switch up toppings as you see fit. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the pepperoni only slice into 2 slices here. And so pretty much I'm just gonna cut it down the middle with the bread knife, the same one I used to cut the baguette up with a while ago. Cut it down the middle. With a little bit of an angle to it. Now I have 2 slices of pepperoni pizza. And I have half a dozen more slices to go. And there you go. So I hope you enjoyed the recipe. Please do hit the like button on this video. And Oh, by the way, I know if you're thinking this is a little off-brand for a channel that's about language and culture, by the way, cuisine is a big part of culture and food is. And I started making this French bread pizza recipe uh, when I was 22 and moved to France and had all these amazing bakeries near me and all these good cheeses and all that. And I thought that's an obvious thing I can learn to make French bread pizza. So that's it. In part why it's such a simple recipe, but I also, yeah, wanted to keep it super easy. Et voila. So I don't have that many recipes that I make. I might share with you eventually my recipe for French toast, which a key to that is also a good baguette, just like the French bread pizza that I make. And maybe even how I do my version of quiche. It's sort of a very Americanized version of quiche Lorraine. But anyway, we'll see when I can, yeah, have time to do that. I would like to share those, and otherwise I'll get more back to language. So thanks for sticking around for the video and watching till the very end. I very much appreciate that. And so I will see you around next time.